You don't want to be a bottom monkey. I think that's pretty safe to say. Don't be a bottom monkey. The hero's journey is a meta story. It's the oldest story that we have. It's the most prevalent in all of this entertainment stuff that we want, especially the stuff that inspires us. It has the structure of the hero's journey. Now, I think entrepreneurs are heroes. Why? They risk it all. And if they succeed, the social group is strong. They're willing to risk and sacrifice everything so that they may one day be able to give back to themselves first, their family second, the group third, the nation fourth, and then the world over time. He's doing something meaningful. As he ascends, his positive affect on the world around him increases. So the story of a hero's journey is what it takes to become a leader. All entrepreneurs who are successful have to have leadership qualities. The hero's journey is you have a kid. And guy or girl, doesn't matter. So, kid. And he's weak, or she's weak. I'm just going to say he, but let's say he and she. Weak. Usually sort of frail, no real conviction, frolicking in the woods or the Shire, following in the Shire. And one day something happens to him. And it's always a tragic event that triggers this. And there's something to think about. Dragon, more often than not, dragon. Fire breathing, more often than not. Comes in, crushes his village, kills his parents, breaks everything he ever built for. So imagine this. You guys have developed a persona. So right now, based on your attachments of what's already happened, positive feedback you got from people, negative feedback you got from people, things that you built up saying, hey, no matter what, I got my portfolio to fall back on, right? No matter what, I got that to fall back on. Or I am this person because I did this, which makes me great, makes me better than that guy. Or I am this person because this person told me that, which makes me lower than that guy. And it's defined me for years. 70% of our unconscious thoughts are negative. You can pretend that's not the case. The data would say otherwise. The negative reinforcement screws up your reward system. It also acts as a boundary. It stops you from doing what I have no problem doing because I realize there's no risk there. But other entrepreneurs have no problem assuming. They have to be masters at risk assessment and mitigation. Everyone else has risk aversion. So if what separates an entrepreneur, one who can lead and identify risk, mitigate that risk, if that's the main difference, why don't we just develop that within ourselves? We say, okay, well, how do we make decisions? What are some fuzziness in my thinking? How do I take all the good stuff and all the bad stuff that happened to be the past, this person that I developed in today? Because I promise you this, whatever you've learned up to this point will become a part of your habit. You form habits, you've gained knowledge, but at some point, you're going to be called, there's going to be, I hate to say this, but if no one else told you, I'm glad I'm the first. Let's make sure I look at you in the eyes and say that. Tragedy will happen. It will. That's life. It really differentiates a mature person from a naive person. They think that success is linear. It is not linear. I know company owners from across the world who came from nothing, who built companies valued in $100 million, have went public, and they were so successful that they had to become because they were afraid that they would be regulated because they were so successful and they were dominating the market. So imagine that, having to become the because you are so powerful. And what they do is life science. They revolutionize diagnostics, they provide generic pharmaceuticals, they engage with NGOs. These guys are the makers, right? These guys give to the community and strengthen them. It gives them other opportunities. These kids, the opportunity to hopefully do the same thing. So, your heads up. Case one. It's usually better if you know it's coming. Or heck, it's even better if it doesn't have to happen and you're able to undergo a transformation without it. It is true that virtually every successful entrepreneur who had this transformation that I'm discussing had to go through loss. It's true. It doesn't have to be that way. It just happens to be that way. In my experience. And did that. So, let's keep on going. The parents get mushed, so does the town. The kid's over there, he's desperate, he's on the ground, he has no reason to get up because everything he had, everything he built, his entire idea of who he was is gone. No one else is there to know who he was, right? So whatever happened in the past is either a story to people going forward, kind of like a hope to grapple with who he is today. So he's defined as who he was in the past, right? He is not in the moment, he is the person, which is the aggregate of the memories and the emotions he has attached to the memories in the past. A hell of a thing to be defined by your past, especially if you try to move forward. Finds a traveling mentor, right? Finds a guy who usually is very poor, very old, sort of aloof but not, says very, very simple things. You're like, oh, well, what's he talking about? There's nothing in that. You think about it more and more, you're like, oh, maybe the reason I went like this is because I'm doing some kind of neuromuscular activation, so on and so forth, to make me a better fighter. I don't know if you guys know that reference. Is that too early? Karate Kid? Anybody? Yeah? Okay. So it's like, all right, let me go follow this guy because I'm going to be a schlep over here. I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm going to follow this guy. Maybe at least I'll get a story out of him, right? And then he undergoes something, right? We don't necessarily see it. We see little flashes of what it is. Usually there's something physical, fighting, that's geared with might. Sometimes there's negotiation in the square where he needs to, because he was a nice kid before, so he was a nice guy, right? He needs to bargain. He needs to haggle. He needs to be able to get the discount, right? So it's no more being agreeable. It's, no, this is what I am. This is what I want. This is what you have. Let's make this fair so we don't get pissed at each other, right? And then let's go our separate ways. Or let's do it again tomorrow, even better. Therefore, the game theory is much more cooperative, right? We're more likely to compete with someone who didn't kind of screw up in the first place to cooperate. All right. So he comes out, and then this kid, or woman, is a little bit more jacked, right? Usually doubled in age or something like that. 5 years in age, 10 years. We don't know the time, and that's on purpose, right? They go through a period of transformation. Body, mind, you can say soul, but that might sound a little strange at this point to you guys. But the whole self, he integrated what's called the shadow. Anybody hear of Carl Jung? Anyone hear of Freud? Okay, so Freud didn't really like Jung, from what I understand. Jung loved Freud, but then they disagreed on some really fundamental things. Both of them have informed the way I see the world and the way that I am able to relate to what I know from all the other people who have succeeded as entrepreneurs. We all kind of say the same thing. We say it from a different reference point or a different level of organization. But if you look at the pattern, you're able to sort of line it up and be like, oh, okay, this must be real, right? Because you have that multiple domain explanation of a phenomenon, and you see a pattern, although we're not always the best at pattern, but you're able to put one together. You say, okay, maybe this is real. Maybe this is what's always going on, right? And I'm seeing the shadow, right, in Plato's cave. What I'm seeing is light bouncing off the wall, calling it real, and I'm trying to find my position on a trade or something, right? I want to be able to allocate my asset within a certain area that predict to have this much appreciation over time, be able to return this. So my ability to predict the future is often based on a shadow of reality. So what often happens? Probably make the wrong prediction, right? Then I make the wrong prediction, what happens? Biologically, what happens? Your dopaminergic reward system, the thing that gives you props for climbing, or spiral for descending, kicks in and it wires in such a way that maybe you'll have to untangle and rewire in order for you to move on. That might be part of the transformation process. Okay. He goes, finds the fire-breathing dragon, white dragon, which used to be eaten by snakes and bitten by poison snakes. Finds a loose shingle. He has a sheep, pulls a sword out of the sheep. Anyone ever hear of the meek will inherit the earth? Anyone ever heard of that saying? Anyone know where that's from?
It's from the Bible.
The meek does not mean the weak, FYI. It's a mistranslation. I think it's the Greek, right? The Bible. It is the one who can wield the sword yet keeps it in his sheath. It's kind of interesting. I wish someone told me that. That's really strange understanding that he's going to inherit the earth. So keep that in mind. So he takes the sword out, finds the loose shingle, the dragon, one papa, boss buys him, takes him on the way over to some tall place where he meets this often beautiful, virgin, royal woman. Okay? So she appreciates it. They get married. King asks him to stay in the kingdom. Think about it a little bit beyond the story. This is medicine. It's the most true that we've ever gotten from our ancestors. Right? Now, he's helping the king run the kingdom. The king is old. He's the one leading the army and so forth. He was embraced as a leader. He came from nothing. He ascended into a dark cave. The darkness is fear. The dragon is chaos. By defeating chaos, you create order. So he was able to give all the riches that the dragon had been sitting on apparently for years when he was doing his thing, back to the people, get the girl, they love each other, romantic love is real, and, embraced by the whole place, people willing to go and march to their deaths. Why? Because he comes back to tell the story of how he did it. So doing something means absolutely nothing. Well, that's it, means nothing. Unless you know how to recognize what you've done and articulate it to enough people where it has some kind of meaningful change. Because if you know something that you're keeping to yourself, or it's a good idea, feels good, and that you have someone you're cooperating with, and if it's not your intent to one day maybe depart some of that wisdom on them, you will not become one. Because you will not know how to cooperate. And if you don't cooperate, you isolate. And if you isolate, your competitors will tear you down.